Professor P here. Welcome back to the animation course. In this video, I'm going to talk about changing your emotion. We're talking about timing. I'm going to show you some examples, and then we're going to take our characters. Hopefully, they're prepared, ready to go from Photoshop and into Animate to do the change of emotion. So let's get started. I always like to show this video clip partly because it's hilarious and to show the change of emotion. Change of emotion is exactly how it sounds. You have one emotion changing to another one. And here is a daytime American show. They're showing basically they bet on a couple of things and they have to guess the price of it. Whoever's closest to the price without going over wins. So you can see here this girl has gone first and she's pretty ecstatic. She's only $2,800 away from her bid, and now it's this guy's turn. So look at his face, look at his expression as we start to hear the things. So I'm going to turn off the audio. So he won about $1.1 million. So what's really awesome about this is that, just to break down his facial expression, he looks really nervous, okay, in this shot. His mouth is slightly opened, his eyes are massive, and just notice the timing from when he hears that he's won and the change of emotion. Okay, so it's about almost 3 seconds before he realizes he's won. And when you look at his face, he looks like he's in fear. But in fact, he's so surprised. And if you look at the girl next to him, she is super happy for him. And she reacts even faster than he does. And then we switched over to another emotion after this sense of shock. Okay, so we have the shock, and then he goes down on his knees. He's crawling on his knees. And he's just so happy that he's won. And now he's crying. A millionaire, all within 5 minutes. Isn't that amazing? So anyways, that's one of my favorite clips I like to show. Another one is a YouTube challenge. I told my kids I ate my Halloween candy. And you can watch this. And so basically he's just Jimmy Kimmel's a late night talk show host. And he tells the parents to prank their kids and tell them they ate all the Halloween candy. So Halloween, like you know, right? It's a very, very important holiday and a festive time. You go door to door, you ask for chocolate or candy, and you get candy. And so these kids went out door to door, and let's have a look at some of the responses. Again, look at the change of emotion. So a lot of them cry. So this change of motion is very fast. Instead of taking 2 or 3 seconds, it happens almost instantaneous. So roughly I would say 5 frames, not even a second. So again, notice the head tilt. So anyways, you can watch the rest of this. You know, every year he does this, get the parents to prank the kids. And you can see that's kids are awesome to analyze and study because they're so genuine in their facial expressions. They're very easy to read, and they make great examples and references for change of emotion. So even when you are coming up with your own emotions, maybe, it's always, as animators, always great to have references, whether it's from something like Jimmy Kimmel's video clips or yourself. You can either use a mirror or record yourself going through the emotions, and then you can really draw from that when you are creating your own animation. So moving forward, let's have a look at my character. I've already have the character in place here. As you probably recognize, he is from Duk Duk Ride. He's the character from that. And if you look on my right-hand side, you've got all the different facial expressions for this particular shot. So I usually draw to the shot, and then I just copy and paste things as I need them. So for this shot, he is ready to go. Eyes are open here, and then eyes are closed here. Eye surprised. So there's a number of different eyes. There's a mouth shape, but there's a lot of stuff on top of each other. So there's the mouth shape, and then there's the smile. So we're going to swap between them. And you notice that everything's on separate layers, so that way they can be swapped. The body is separate also from the head. But for the most part, the nose goes along with the head since I did not decide to move that. So in Adobe Animate, I just go and create a new scene, 1920 by 1080. Then I'm proceeding to importing that Photoshop document. And as you can see here, there is everything. And I'm going to import to stage. I click OK, and now we are in. I'm just going to hit Control plus, Control minus to get this thing down. And you can see that all the layers are created. Layer 1, this is a background layer. I don't need it, so I can just trash it. And now layer 1 can be my background. BG. Okay, so here we are in the program. We're going to get this character rigged up. So again, we will do a full body rig in another video, but in this one we're just focusing on fewer elements so we have less room for possible error. But right now we want to be able to parent the smile, the mouth, all these different facial features to the head, because when we move the head, we want to be able to just not worry about everything else. We want everything else to follow along with it. In order to do this, we need to turn on, this is a new feature called Show Parenting View. We're going to parent the smile, mouth, eyes open, eyes closed, eyebrows, and all the way to the head. Select one and then have the rest just parent to it, but there we go. Everything is parented to the head, so now when we move the head around, okay, everything else moves along. So that's pretty good. And then the body, head can parent to the body, and that looks good. So this is the visual representation of everything, and this is the hide parenting view. Turn it on and off to see how it looks. If you want to unparent something, you can just right click on it, or just click on it and then remove the parent or change the parent by just clicking on it. Okay, now that we're more or less done rigging, let's double check to make sure, because the one thing I always forget is to adjust the pivot point. So when we go to the free transform tool, which is Q, shortcut key, you'll notice when I try to rotate it, I'm just going to move my mouse pointer over to the corner, that the pivot point is not in a really good natural spot for a head tilt. So we want to make sure this is towards the neck. So I'm going to go to find that center point and that little circle and move it down to the bottom there. So now when I rotate it, it's a little bit more believable. It's not perfect, but definitely more believable. And so make sure you do that by going to the free transform tool, also Q on the shortcut. Again, I always forget to do this, and next week when we look at full body characters, you'll see that we'll be using it again. All right, now that we are set up, we are good to go. We are ready to roll here. Okay, so in the properties, this is where we're going to change the alpha. Alpha is the transparency. So we are going to go with a kind of a happy to a surprised face. So this is, again, the change of emotion. So I'm going to go to my surprised, and I'm going to go to alpha and turn that down. I will also go to eye surprised, go to alpha there, and turn this down. I'm going to go to eyes open. That's fine. Keep that opened. Eyes closed. Also turn that. We don't see it. It's okay. Eyebrows are happy, and that's good. So this is a good start, and then we'll have the head. Maybe look down, look back up. Again, this is under properties and just scroll down till you see it. Okay, so when it's hidden, you can see that the keyframe is white, so that's good. And again, we're going to hold it for about it's 24 frames a second, so let's say about half a second or so. That'd be about 12 frames in. But just for the purpose of it, yeah, let's go 15 just to be generous. And I'm just going to hit F5 on the keyboard after shift clicking down to the bottom, so we've got all the keyframes we need. So now we're going to switch and have it turn on and turn off. So again, the change of motion happens in like a split second. And so if you were to have this thing blend in and blend out over 5 or 10 frames, it would look weird because you have this fading in of a facial expression, and you don't really need that. So let's put it to about frame 25, just so we can have this facial position and expression hold for a little bit longer. So F5 there inserts a frame, and then we've got about a second in. We'll then change everything. We'll hit F6 because that creates a new keyframe, and then we go down to alpha and put the alpha to 100. So now we have the eyes surprise coming in. The eyes open. We will then hit F6 and we'll put the alpha to 0. So the eyes will disappear there. Eye surprise, alpha's in. Then the eyes close. We're not worried about that right now, so we will hit F6 and we'll just keep it closed there. Surprise, F6, alpha is 100, so we'll put that up. It's not filling up the black keyframes there. And eyebrows happy, we'll need to turn that off, so alpha is 0. The head will stay in there, F6, and nothing changing. And so now you can see the change of motion. Again, the body hasn't moved much, so I'm just going to click and drag that, and it creates a keyframe there. Clear this keyframe, so it's just a frame. And so that's the main difference here. We have the frame and keyframe. Circles are the keyframes, and this little kind of rectangle in the end is just a frame. So it's a frame that extends over time, and so that's how we're able to keep it. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to add F6 for the mouth now. So we have the mouth, and hit F6 for the other mouth, and then I'll change the opacity to the smile. Okay, so we have this to then a surprise face. I'm going to hit F5 to add those frames in, so we have a good 2 seconds. And this doesn't work partly because there's no movement in the head, shoulders, body, head. There's no movement. So in order for this to be more convincing, we have to create movement and to make it more believable. So we'll have the characters do a little bit of a squash and stretch, and a little bit of a head tilt. So I'm going to go under the head and make some animation. But first, I'm going to think about where I can create this anticipation. So I want to anticipate the body going down, change of emotion, and then the head settles, body settles. So I'm going to start with the body here. I'm going to hit F6 on the keyboard. So I'm going to right click over here and select Classic Tween. And there I can drop the body down. So the body will drop maybe a little bit here, 2 frames. I will drop the body. Oops, let's go with the body. Drop this thing down a little bit. Got some issues here. I'm going to have to lock in the head and go back to the body, and then drop the body down, and then the body will go back up around here, and so that looks okay. When right click and hit Classic Tween here as well. So now we have the body movement, and now we can put some movement for the head. So I'm going to unlock the head there, and I will hit right click, it's easier, hit Classic Tween. So the whole thing's a tween, hit F6, and now we can rotate the head a little bit. So Q on the keyboard, you can rotate the head forward a little bit, and you can see how my head, it didn't keep the pivot point. So I'm going to put it back down here. Let's see if this will have done anything to it. Again, it might create some problems, so you might have to just go back and redo it there. So you can see how there's some mistakes there. So I'm going to go right click and clear this keyframe and make sure that the very first frame there's that pivot points down here. So now we should be okay. We can go over right over here, hit F6, and we can hit Q on the keyboard and rotate the head forward a little bit. You can exaggerate it, and over here the head will hit F6, and we can rotate the head back, and then move over to frame 27, hit F6, and then rotate this slightly back, almost the same. So now when we scrub through this, we have this movement. So again, this movement that happens here is a little too early, so I'm going to go back and make sure it's just straightened before we can then, you can see how this thing, a little bit of a couple mistakes here for this head, and it pops up. Alright, so again, you should save this, hit play, just to make sure the timing is right. But it's roughly 5 frames, and you can see it moving right there. Again, notice how quickly I swap using alpha to switch the different facial expressions between the mouth and eyebrows, the eyes as well, and how quickly we're able to move the body. The body drops and goes back up. All happens within 5 or 6 frames, and it looks pretty believable. If it's too slow, if you make it over 10 frames, it's going to go like as if the character's underwater, and that's not what we want to do. We want it to look like this, and that's that. So that's your first take. We just, did some alpha, did some rotation to position on a couple body parts, but you should get a good grasp of basic character animation for the face. So kind of a long video, but we've got to learn to animate somehow, so that's the best way. We'll see you in the next video.